Zack Snyder revealed this important DC character's purpose in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was to die. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Zack Snyder explained why he had to kill off Jimmy Olsen in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, as this remains a massive debate among fans. The character, in the comics, is a photojournalist from the Daily Planet who is pals with Clark Kent and Lois Lane. When Olsen was introduced, the viewers expected he'd have more significance in the movie, but he was immediately removed as the story unfolded and revealed he's a CIA operative. Fans need not worry anymore because James Gunn will correct this in his upcoming Superman film. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was one of the most controversial DC installments helmed by Zack Snyder. While it is a commercial hit, the critical reviews were quite harsh. In fact, it only received a disappointing 29% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Apart from the backlash it sustained, fans also criticized one of the most brutal deaths in the film. Jimmy Olsen was played by Michael Cassidy, and he was immediately killed off even before the story progressed. Snyder explained that there's a reason for every death scene, and Olsen's demise had a purpose. As the dominoes fall, as you go, you're ended up with the consequences, he stated, comparing the story to a chess game where some figures needed to die in order to move the plot forward. Snyder reiterated that deaths teach us something, and sometimes that's their role, to die. Olsen was only a pawn in the game that needed to perish. Fans will surely not take the director's answer lightly, as Olsen is one of their most anticipated characters in the world of Superman. Until now, the audience is still in the dark as to why Snyder even thought of including the character, because his death here didn't really change anything. Another quite hilarious thing is that fans didn't even know the character was supposed to be Olsen until netizens on social media started talking about him. It's also strange that he never interacted with Superman, given that they were supposed to be friends. There are a lot of altered elements in Snyder's version of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which is why the reactions of fans are understandable. James Gunn will be bringing him back in the upcoming Superman project, as the DC head shares the first-look image of Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen, who will make his debut in 2025. Hopefully, the character will play a more important role this time. He's one of the most popular human figures in the Superman comics, so fans will be anticipating his appearance, as well as story in the movie. The hype on David Corenswet's Superman is quite high, even though we still have less than a year before its worldwide premiere. Zack Snyder's films are being crushed under the weight of too much melodramatic slow-motion storylines, and it simply needs to stop. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. The world that Zack Snyder comes from is stuffed with lore-driven drama, mature sensibilities, and dark imagination. His work reflects those traits in abundance, despite there being enough opportunities to go so completely campy in his artistic style that it would threaten even David Cronenberg's reputation in the field. But Snyder doesn't take the bait. He would rather be the master of dramatic storytelling that presents itself as an epic Greek tragedy than serve up a generic film that gets lost among the stampede of 1,000 other films coming off of Hollywood's factory lineup. It is this obstinate ambition to tell the greatest of stories in whichever genre he picks up, be it historical fiction like 300, comic adaptation like Watchmen, or a zombie apocalypse film like Dawn of the Dead, that often leads to a divisive cult classic hit. With grim, color-graded, dark vignettes marring every frame of heavy artillery dialogue, slow-motion action, and deep insightful monologues, Zack Snyder's films either hit the bullseye or his aesthetic vision completely turns off the viewers. In the recent past, Zack Snyder has been trampled, cursed out, exiled, and exorcised from the industry so completely that the fans who gathered in his support turned hostile in his defense. To back him didn't just mean supporting the director through his hardships, but also protecting his vision for DCU's future. The more that dream was shoved aside by Warner Brothers, the more ardent his fans would get in trying to get the project back on track, until Justice League finally took a stand and came out successful in 2021. The shared shock and trauma from the 5-year-long incident evolved the director's image to a godlike figure to his community of undaunted, unbiased, and unwavering followers, a trait that has often earned them the nickname Snyder cultists by the opposition in online forums. But the aftermath of Rebel Moon saw even such loyal fans limiting their quota of praise reserved for the director. The Netflix film, which was supposed to be Zack Snyder's magnum opus, the masterpiece of the decade, a film unchecked by studio interference or censored by MPAA or slashed to reduce runtime, instead turned out to be a dud. Was this film then a one-off flop by Snyder, who, for the record, has never failed to deliver cult classic hits, no matter how divisive? Or was Rebel Moon only the latest in a long line of films that showed off all the traits that combine to make a pure, unadulterated Zack Snyder classic? Zack Snyder's films have consistently delivered on a grand scale, no matter the genre or tone of storytelling. Be it comic adaptations, historical fiction, a zombie apocalypse film, or Star Wars-inspired jargon, each of Snyder's movies has been a fully formed visionary tale of epic character arcs filled with conflict, melodrama, and war. But while films like 300 inspire awe and terror over the nightmarish glimpse into Spartans and their logic-defying war against the Persians, the same defiant tone and ambition of underdogs waging war against an empire become grating to the nerves while watching Rebel Moon. The primary reason why Snyder's range shifts from his 2006 historical epic to the 2023 Netflix space opera is his increasing dependency on dramatic effects to add depth to his story rather than a focus on the story itself. When it comes to cinematography, Zack Snyder has always been a fan of long soul-cutting stares and dramatic silhouettes against a larger-than-life scenic backdrop. But such thematics never hampered his storytelling because they were used judiciously and with restraint. However, with time, the director has loosened up his reins. His films are now populated, haunted, and plagued by melodramatic slow-motion action sequences. Starting from the death of Superman to, quite frankly, every frame in Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder forgot to use his favorite tropes sparingly and let loose in the absence of studio interference. As a result, the entire film suffers from an incredulously slow-paced narrative, and the audience groans and suffers while the protagonist takes out entire squadrons of enemies in extreme slow motion. While the director has only begun to overindulge in such habits, his flaws can be traced back even to the earliest films. Melodrama and Zack Snyder have never been strangers in this lifetime, but it has remained an overbearing and constant presence casting a shadow over every one of his stories. Although Snyder's aesthetic vision may suffer if one asks him to dial down the dramatic seriousness in his films, it may do the director some good to omit the longing stares, slow-motion action, and cinematic silhouettes in favor of character-building and high-stakes storytelling. The former DC star Ben Affleck maybe reflected on his decision to drop his Batman Rebel Moon within one film following his Justice League cameo. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Ben Affleck, who embodied the Dark Knight in the DCU, opened up about his decision to step away from his solo film, which was expected to feature the formidable villain Deathstroke. Fans were eagerly anticipating seeing Batman facing Deathstroke following his brief appearance in Justice League. While the film was eventually scrapped, before Affleck stepped down from the role, the actor did share what it could have been like along with the reasons for abandoning the story during his appearance at Zack Snyder's Full Circle event. While joining Zack Snyder's Full Circle event, Ben Affleck discussed his plans for the cancelled solo film along with the villains that he considered for the movie. "There were a number of them that I was kind of exploring," he said, explaining that he wanted to develop interesting, nuanced, and complex characters while focusing on a